These baylands in Redwood City were part of the bay, and they were diked off for salt production many years ago. They are fully restorable, and they're very important wetlands, both for habitat, but also protecting the rest of Redwood City from flooding and sea level rise.
In the 1850s, when the gold rush started, there was almost 200,000 acres of tidal marsh. When the population started growing, we began filling the bay. We used the bay as our dumps. We put trash along the edges of the bay, and we diked, we drained, we filled about 80% of our tidal marshes.
We didn't realize the value of the bay as an ecosystem. Harold Gilliam, who was a writer for the San Francisco Chronicle, he wrote articles about the value of the bay, and it was like, oh my goodness, it's the nursery for all living things in the ocean. So people sort of had their eyes opened about this place that no one had valued before.
Given the amount of acreage that was lost, it was really important to try to maintain or get back as many acres as possible. Cargill actually sold off a lot of their land to the federal government as part of a restoration project that turned into the South Bay Salt Ponds Restoration Project. But that particular parcel in Redwood City, Cargill decided that they're interested in potentially developing the property. In 2010, they came up with a proposal to essentially build another city, something comparable in size to Redwood Shores or Foster City. 12,000 homes, million square feet of commercial. It would essentially levy off the property to keep it from flooding. So there were a lot of residents, myself included, that started being concerned about whether this makes a whole lot of sense.
They had read the community fairly well, that there's big community opposition to developing. So they withdrew the whole effort in 2012, but they have now reinitiated their process. Because they had a favorable ruling from the EPA in March. The San Francisco Regional Administrator had recommended that these are subject to the Clean Water Act and therefore not that easily developable. And then in Washington, D.C., the EPA Administrator overruled that and issued a new determination. So Green Foothills, my organization, and Save the Bay, we all are suing the Trump administration for this decision on the Clean Water Act. Anything along the bay that can be restored and have wetlands growing there again helps attenuate the sea level rise impacts.
Using the high emissions scenarios, we were looking at about a 1 to 2 foot of sea level rise in the San Francisco Bay by mid-century. By 2100, you're looking at around 3 to 7 feet of sea level rise and maybe as much as 10 feet. And what that means is that most of those low-lying areas will be inundated. More and more studies are coming out now globally that marshes and wetlands are a critical part of adapting and protecting our built environment to the impacts of climate change and sea level rise.
As the sea level rises, as the bay rises, sediment will also get dropped out along the shoreline, and it will tend to rise along with it. There has to be a lot of work done in this area, but this will be a key element in that restoration. The other thing about the Cargill 1,400 acres is that they also provide extremely important wildlife habitat for migrating birds. Bird populations are crashing in the United States, so we certainly need to protect and restore what we can.
In addition to the environmental issues, there was also this sort of planning and land use concern. Redwood City updated its general plan. And there was a very long sort of public process about where do we want to develop in Redwood City, how are we going to manage growth, how are we going to improve in terms of our economic development. So the basic idea was to focus all of that in the downtown area, where we can begin to build higher density housing around the El Camino for the bus lines and the rail lines. Hopefully that would help mitigate some of the traffic issues that would otherwise occur by bringing in all those people. So our argument is we need to be focusing the efforts downtown, stay away from the open space, maintain the vision of the general plan and don't abandon that.
We can have economic development and protect open space and provide safe places for people to live. We can do all that if we plan and manage our land use decisions in a smart way. Save the Bay organization has actually gotten a lot of elected officials to sign on to a statement that this is not the appropriate place to locate development. These are, throughout the Bay and even our state legislators. So, it's going to be a really uphill battle for Cargill.